The other day, a friend asked me, Michael, what's the best investment that you've made in your business? And I thought about it for a moment, but I came back to what I've always come back to because I've thought about this question in the past multiple times, and I've been asked this question quite a few times over the years. What kind of came to my mind right away was the quote or the saying from Jim Rohn that you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And for me, the best investment that I've ever made in this business, as well as other businesses that I've been a part of or started and grown and in some cases sold, has been working with a coach or being part of a mastermind or a group of other business owners and entrepreneurs. So let me take you back. I remember that Sam and I, my cousin Sam, co-founder at Consulting Success, we've done lots of businesses together over the years. I remember many years, like this, we're probably going back now almost 20 years when this happened. Maybe it was a little bit less, maybe 18 years. 19 years. But I remember we were working on a business and we kind of felt like we had taken it as far as we could. We also felt like there was a lot of unknowns. Like we knew what we were doing, but we also recognized that there were a lot of things that we saw around us where people were getting better results, where it seemed like they just knew a lot more. Like they had answers that we didn't, to questions, and we had a lot more questions than we had answers. And so I remember we found somebody who we were probably reading their newsletter for a period of time. We felt this person knows what they're doing. We felt like we could trust them, and we were wondering, should we make an investment in getting them to be a coach for us? And at that time, it was a big investment for us. We had not made an investment into working with a coach before. The uncertainties and kind of the risk came into our mind, the thoughts of, will this actually work? And what if it doesn't work? Is it worth, spending thousands of dollars, which today would be, well into tens of thousands of dollars and beyond, just like those questions, right? It's hard to earn money. Is this the best thing? And then I remember the thought process or the thought that kind of came into my mind, and I'll say, being very honest, it's come into my mind many times throughout the years, which is, what if instead of investing this, we just try a little bit more ourselves and just try and push a little bit more? And I'm really glad that I didn't allow that belief or that thought to actually move forward, because that just keeps happening. If you allow that mindset, if you allow that of, what if I just tried a little bit more myself before trying to get help, you'll keep going back to that. And that's fear. Right? That is fear that is driving that question in your mind, because it's trying to keep you, quote unquote, safe doing what you've always been doing before. The way to break out, and this is the reason why, and I'll tell you why it's been the best investment ever, is because it allows you to break out of what you're currently doing. And, like Einstein said, I believe it was Einstein, that the definition of insanity is doing, the same thing or the wrong thing over and over again, or doing what isn't working over and over again. And so if I think about it kind of, externally and very impartially, if you're stuck, or if you're at a certain level of growth, or you're not growing, right? Wherever you are today is the result of you doing what you already know. If you knew what you actually need to do to get to the next level, well, you would already be there, or you'd be seeing great growth happening. So if you're in a position where you're thinking, I'm trying a bunch of stuff. I'm definitely trying. I feel busy. I feel productive, but I know that there's probably things that I could be doing better, or I want to get results faster, or I don't want to make mistakes, or right. That requires you breaking out of what you're currently doing. And so I remember hiring that first coach, and it was a great experience. It definitely helped us to get to the next level in our business. And then fast forward a few years, we joined a mastermind, and that was a collection of other entrepreneurs and business owners, where we would be, there was calls, there was some in-person stuff, just getting, I remember there was one specific suggestion that came up in that kind of group, and it was something that we hadn't done in our business to that point. And I remember taking that back and going okay, I'm seeing people, everyone's talking about it, or some people are talking about how this is working really well for them. We're not doing this. Maybe we should do this. And so we tested it. And I remember based on that, I sent out a couple of emails that generated a bunch of phone calls. A bunch of those phone calls turned into sales. And I think it was within 1 or 2 weeks, it had generated about $40,000 in new revenue for us, which at that time was, a heck of a lot of money. And what's really big from that is that was the start of something much bigger in our business. So I get that it's scary to invest, but every single time that we've made investments, there's been some benefit. And I'll tell you, there's even been some investments. There was one that we made, and this was going back now probably 7 years ago, give or take. I don't remember the exact year, but there's somebody that we were kind of following, was very successful from the external, and decided to join their program. It was, I believe, $50,000 at that time. I have no idea what it is today. That was a good amount of money for us. Definitely, probably, it was the most we had ever invested into any kind of coaching, mentorship, mastermind type of program, and we were completely disappointed. We were treated not individually necessarily, but the overall feeling was like, yeah, you're one of many. It was much more transactional. That was, quote unquote, not a great experience. We didn't have a direct ROI from it. But what I've observed and what I've found is that regardless of the investments that we've made, because we've made many that have not worked over the years, like we haven't gotten a direct, clear ROI, but we learn from those. And then we take what didn't work and we apply it. And now the next thing does work. And the result from that next thing makes the ROI from the previous one positive, right? And that mindset, and that's why I'm sharing with all of you here, because that mindset has created what has allowed us to build a multi-million-dollar company, is that even though we try things, and even though one thing may not work, we don't dwell on it and go, okay, that sucks. And we don't go, we don't blame and say it's that person's fault, even though maybe it is that person's fault. We own it and say, okay, we made a decision and this worked or this didn't work, but hey, this did not work. Why didn't it work? Okay, let's take that. Now let's do this, try this next thing. Okay, now that worked really well. Okay, well, we learned part of the success of the second thing was related to the first thing that didn't work. That was a big one. And I'll give you another example. When we worked with that one company where we did not have a great result, and it was a lot of money for us at that time, that actually taught us and influenced us very heavily to create the Clarity Coaching program at Consulting Success the way that it is today. That, and the reason why we have so much one-to-one with our clients. The reason why, one of our values is really all about community and caring, because we don't want to treat our clients just like transactions. Everything that we do in our systems, in our team, and how we hire, it's all based on making sure that these will be the right people that truly care, where we can be more personalized, more customized, where we can engage with clients, where if things are for some reason not working the way that they should, we want to jump in, we want to know about it. So I credit, in fact, even though we made a big investment that didn't work out right away, I'm happy that we made that investment that did not work out directly in terms of ROI, because it taught us, what did not feel good and what we didn't think was right. And so we took that and we said, okay, we've now seen a very clear example of how we don't want to be treated and how we feel is not the right way to provide coaching. And again, I'm not knocking that person. I didn't say anything negative about them publicly or even privately. What they have works for them, and that's great. But that's just not the way that we wanted to run a business. We wanted to take a very different approach where we showed much more care and stronger connection and building relationships with our clients for the long term. Just to come back full circle here, the best investment that I have ever made and that we as a company have ever made has been into coaching and into masterminds and into surrounding ourselves with other people that are not only at a similar level to where we're at, but who are at that next level. People who know already what needs to happen to go from where you are today to get to that next level. Because if you try and figure everything out yourself, listen, you might be able to, but it might take you many more years and it might cost you a lot more money. And there might be a lot more mistakes and of trial and error. And so the question to ask yourself is, if there was a way that you could avoid making a lot of those mistakes, and if you could just learn from somebody who has already done what you want to do and can fast track and accelerate your success, right? Would that be beneficial for you? That's the way that we think about it. And even today, we make a lot of investments into our business, into our team, into building out these things, into getting training and coaching. And the reason that we do that is that we know, yes, we could probably try and figure these things, a lot of these things out ourselves. But if there's somebody out there that has already figured it out, why not make that investment? Because we know as long as we can see a clear path to getting a return on investment and getting more back than what we initially put in, even if it's not right away, but as long as we can see, yes, it does make sense, we believe this will work, then we do it. So I hope that's been helpful in kind of sharing that perspective. I know how easy it can be to sit and kind of wallow in that scarcity mindset where you're afraid to make investments, where you're afraid to take the leap, where you delay and hesitate and tell yourself, I'm going to wait a little bit longer to delegate, or I'm going to wait a little bit longer to hire this person, or I'm going to wait a little bit longer to try this, or I'm going to wait a little bit longer to invest. That's a scarcity mindset. The abundance mindset is understanding that what's probably actually holding you back from getting to where you want to go is the exact thing that you're not doing right now, right? The thing that you are scared to do, the thing that you have thought about but have not pulled the trigger on, is probably what is actually holding you back. So again, I hope that has been helpful and been valuable for all of you. As always, I appreciate you tuning into this. If you found this helpful, if you want other content, let us know in the comments. As always, highly appreciate you leaving a rating and review. It sends the signal to the algorithms to share this to more people. The more people that know about this, the more I want to do more of these. So I appreciate all of you and have a wonderful rest of the day.